Being a Kid. Ugh. Read by the author, Tracy R.L. O'Flaherty. Chapter 14. Choose Love. Many decades have passed since my dancing upon my grandpa's resting place upon Mother Earth. I know he dances in the heavens, and with that, I want to share that my sister and I returned to our hometown, if you can call it a hometown, as there isn't much there that looks the same. It really isn't a town. It is a place that feels empty and free of any childhood. I was surprised when we returned to explore. We wanted to look at our childhood home and the places we would travel on our bikes. We wanted to go back. I guess we do that as humans. We like to return to something that feels normal, even if it doesn't feel normal. We want to return to our roots, to our heritage. We want to return to reminisce, to ponder days gone by and the people that spent days and time that are no longer here. We want to return to what we know, and don't we do that all too often with our thoughts that become a haunting of the past? We traveled looking at the worn-out landscape. Once the trees were lined in brilliance, only to be replaced with emptiness and a color that I could not describe. It was early spring when we made our hometown appearance. Not a soul in sight. Not a house that looked remotely familiar, and yet all things stood where we left them. The color was of darkness. It was as though a silent bomb was experienced, taking any kind of life away. The road we traveled felt vacant. The lands and the fields felt gray. It was a very odd color. The green grass hadn't had time to grow in the cooler weather. The snow had melted, but left the remnants of dirt and mud that lined the road. I couldn't imagine that I would feel so challenged with my return. I pictured lollipops and kittens. I pictured warm memories and happiness. As my sister and I pointed to things there, or no longer there, we felt our childhood escape. We felt the innocence be removed in the reality of the demise of what we did remember. Where was home when the house we grew up in looked different? I couldn't imagine laughter or happiness. I could see the years worn on an already worn house. The trees not trimmed and old cars packed around like a wrecking lot. Where did our house go? Where did our home go? Where did we go? For it was years since my last return there. We drove to the fairground and all things felt off. The old stone fence and gate was there in its original glory, but so much was missing. I looked across the fields to a place I once played, to the fair that was the gift of the year. And as I stood looking at the loneliness, I understood of the evolvement we call life. We try and keep things the way it was, or the way it should be preserved. But really, perhaps it is people that do not wear the years well. The old brick home was standing strong. but you could see the crumble of the atmosphere. I could see the crumble of a place I once called home. We made our way back to our home one more time. As we slowed the car down to look upon our childhood memories, the owner watched in curiosity. There was a part of me that wanted to introduce myself, and then I didn't get out of the car. I thought that perhaps, just perhaps, some things are better left in memory, the way we do remember. Some things I wanted to keep in my heart, in my mind. I wanted the endless backyard to be filled with lush green grass as it was when I was a child. I wanted to see our spunky dog come to greet me. I wanted to be a kid again for that short moment in time, so I could see the way it was. I didn't want to see it this way, not run down and lacking pride. Our home was lacking pride, the appearance unkept. The sense of it all was nothing that I remembered. Even the magnificent view from the front porch could not be seen for the overgrown, unkept trees. My heart broke. I broke, for I changed my memory. Had I not returned, my memory would have remained the same. I returned, and nothing felt like home. We made our way to what we knew would still have remained the same. At Franklin's Corner, we parked the car and made our way to the gate of the cemetery. The one thing that was constant, the only fence that I could see that held anything in or out, was gone. The cemetery fence was gone. The iron gate remained, but the fence, it was gone. We walked in and started our steps in the direction to my grandpa's stone. To my absolute shock, I stood wearing heels. I found my bravery, and as I stepped upon the stone, my entire foot covered the words and the dates. My feet just fit. That's what I meant by everything looked so big as a child. I could dance and dance and dance when I was 7, and at 47, I could only stand looking down in amazement of how small the stone actually is. I called my sister over to show her. As she sauntered in melancholy, I felt her heart. I felt her heart as she walked through reading each monument of someone we once loved. Row by row, I watched her fill the space with her loving heart, a heart that felt the emptiness. It was a day I will remember, not for the disappointment, but for the time we spent together being disappointed. As kids, you see things so differently. As a child, things look beyond. I stood wearing 4-inch heels, looking through the eyes of me as an adult. Where did I go? My shoes were not tap shoes. My shoes were no longer a size 3. Where did the little one go? I slowly placed my hands together in prayer. I stood silent as my sister walked the lined rows. I stood silent knowing we all go to where we once were. Where was I before here? Where will I be after here? And the answer is mine to discover. It is for all souls to discover. If all things look different from childhood to adulthood, it begs the question for me, would heaven look different when we return? Do we return to the great heavens over and over? And is it the heavens where we stay until our arrival back to Mother Earth? Would all things look the same? Or would we see eternal light with the knowing of our expansion? For we must not remain the same. As we drove home in silence, at times in laughter, in times a few tears, we drove home to a place that wasn't home, but where I lived. I realized that home is not the house we grow up in. I realized that home is not the house that is now called home. Home is truly in your heart. Home is in each step upon Mother Earth. Home is the peace of knowing that you are home, no matter where you stand or where you sleep. Your heart is your home. Memories are kept alive, but is it true to what it really was? Home. My home is my peaceful place. Home is where I write. Home is where my heart is, but truly, my heart is my home. For when I return to the great vastness of oneness, my heart is held in the home in which I truly live. I am sure, as we walk upon Mother Earth, there is another part of us that is kept in the heavens, whole and vibrant. Perhaps I should start there.